Well, for more on what impact the Bezos divorce could have on Amazon, I'm joined by Shannon Liao, tech and cultural reporter for The Verge. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rochelle.
So with the wealthiest man in the world and one of the most valuable companies in the world, is this the first big tech divorce?
This is one of the first big tech divorces for sure. And by looking at this case, we could then predict what would happen if, Mark Zuckerberg and his wife were to divorce, if that were ever to happen, or if other tech companies might have a similar thing.
So are these the sorts of conversations that people are having once you have the richest man going through this? Are other companies wondering what would happen share-wise if their company was to split?
Right. So Jeff Bezos right now is the richest man, but of course, if he were to go through this divorce, he would actually lose probably half of his shares to his wife, and then he would no longer be the richest man. But of course, he'd still have a considerable fortune.
Now, they were married a year before Amazon was founded. So what role has Bezos' wife played in the company's development versus her position now?
Right. So at the beginning, Bezos' wife was actually very involved with the company, and she helped found it. So he wasn't the only one. He wasn't like the sole founder of the company or anything like that. And she actually was quite involved, and she's a novelist, and Amazon was actually quite focused on books. But now, as the company has expanded and become, one of the world's richest companies, she's actually just gone behind the scenes and no longer is as involved as before.
As we mentioned, Jeff Bezos has 16% of the company's shares in it. That's an $800 billion company. Now, there has been some speculation that this personal matter could radically change Amazon if his assets were split down the middle. What sort of financial impact could we be looking at?
Right. So I think the tech companies like Apple and with Steve Jobs passing away, those kinds of things, we haven't really seen a huge impact on the consumer. But with Amazon, perhaps if Bezos were to lose half his shares, there could be some turmoil inside the company. But to see that trickle down to the consumer could be quite unlikely.
So then what sort of concerns do these personal matters raise for shareholders?
Right. So shareholders and investors are definitely going to be the ones who are very eager to watch what happens next and very concerned because, So I think there's a high rate of turnover for CEOs that are going through divorce, maybe about 30%, about 29%. And so there's a possibility that once Bezos loses half of his shares, perhaps he could, start to lose control of the company. And at that point, that's when shareholders should be worried.
Now, sometimes it can be difficult to separate the CEO from the company. So how likely is Amazon as a brand to be affected by what's happening?
Right. So I think Amazon right now is huge. Right now it is in bearish market because of, I guess, its first quarter guidance, and perhaps foreseeing that the next quarter might be impacted by foreign exchange rates negatively. But at the same time, it's such a huge company, and it's doing so well in the North American business that perhaps it won't necessarily be impacted so much by the Bezos divorce as you might foresee.
Now, according to Bloomberg, his wife Mackenzie would become the world's richest woman if this was split down the middle. And interestingly, the top 6 wealthiest women on the Bloomberg Billionaires Index acquired their wealth through late husbands or parents. Do we have any indication of when there is this switchover, how that tends to affect companies?
Right. So there is a chance that, once Mackenzie Bezos is, another major shareholder in addition to Jeff Bezos, and she has a lot of shares of the company, maybe she could perhaps have more of a voice in how the company is run and start to influence things that way. But it's so early that we can't really say anything for sure. We don't even know how the divorce negotiations are going to go through. So right now we can only speculate.
All right. Thank you so much. Shannon Liao, tech and culture reporter for The Verge.